Obviously, this whole campaigning thing has been turned upside down and on its head a few times over the last couple of months. How have you been effectively getting your message out?
Well, you guys know that I've been out on the campaign trail for the last year. We've been working really hard. We've gotten a lot of support, put together a strong organization all across this state. I've been the lead fundraiser far and away in my race, and I have, gotten the organization. I got my message out, and that has all really continued, notwithstanding the coronavirus. In fact, what I've noticed, I think since the last time I was on your show, this crisis has emerged, and I have seen the interest in this office and in this race really escalate even beyond what we had achieved to this point before the coronavirus hit. So I think it's because people understand that as we go about reopening the economy, the Attorney General is the one who is responsible for ensuring health and safety of our workers as they come back on the job, and people care about that. They're more focused on it right now because the stakes are so high, So I think the campaign has really come into sharper focus, and we're going full speed ahead with digital media, doing what we can do without person-to-person campaigning, of course.
Sam, this is Dave. Thank you, as always, for being with us. I'm interested in your thoughts on the governor's not performance, but leadership, if you will, over the past 3 months. Is he going at about the right speed, too fast or too slow when it comes to opening up the state?
Well, I always favor following the best evidence and the science, and I think that I deal with Governor Justice and his family's companies all the time, and I think that I understand that he sort of stumbled his way into this, and you remember the Bob Evans moment. I mean, there were some rough spots getting here, but I think putting Dr. Marsh in charge was the right thing to do. And my job as a candidate for Attorney General, or the job of the Attorney General, is not to supplant the executive judgment of the governor, and I'm not going to try to do that here. From my frame of reference, as we go about reopening, some people think it should be faster, some people think it should be slower, but one thing that's clear is that we have to protect the health and the safety of working people as we reopen our economy to ensure that we avoid a second wave of infection. That's what I've represented: coal miners in dust exposure, work refusal cases, health and safety grievances in the mines. I know how to strike the right balance, and figure out protecting workers and avoiding these kinds of escalated health risks. That's exactly the work that our Attorney General should be doing right now. And Lord knows he's out there, doing anything and everything but that, trying, as usual. I'm afraid we've got an Attorney General that's just misguided and given some short shrift to those fundamental duties that we really need to see right now.
Let's drill down on that and get a little specific, because you've kind of laid it out there that Patrick Morrisey, as Attorney General, is not doing the job doing the job in the same way that you would if you were the Attorney General. Can you give me an example? Help me understand that?
Yeah, sure. So the Attorney General manages, among his many functions, he manages the Civil Rights Division. What is the Civil Rights Division in West Virginia? It's the entity that enforces our legal protections for people in sensitive groups, for workers in sensitive groups, and we have it's called our Human Rights Act. It's enforced through the Attorney General's Civil Rights Division, and that law says that if you are in a sensitive group, if you have COPD or diabetes or another disease that renders you at risk, you have the right, really, to reasonable accommodations and support. In this case, we're looking at personal protective equipment, maybe some extra sanitary hygiene measures on the job, clean surfaces, social distancing, limiting occupancy in public spaces. Our public agencies have that obligation to ensure those protections for people in sensitive groups, and in the private sector really does too, in the workplace. And you can see right now exactly why those protections are so important, because so much is at stake. If we're too cavalier about these sorts of protections, we really risk a second wave of infection, and Lord knows we can't afford that. And many people are really concerned and eager to reopen the economy. You know, I'm not taking a position as to exactly how fast we should do that. My point is, let's use our laws, let's use our tools to protect the public health and safety, as we go about reopening our economy, getting people back to work, getting some money coming back into our households and our counties. That's really critical that we do it safely, and that's what I've done among law practice. That's exactly why I think people came to me and said, we need you in this office, leading these efforts for our people in the Attorney General's office.
Our guest is Sam Petsonk. He is running for Attorney General in the Democratic primary. That will be held on June the 9th. Of course, many of the ballots already cast because we're mailing them in this year in bigger numbers than ever. I want to change the topic, and I'm not sure, I'll admit this right up front, not sure whether this would even fall under the umbrella of the Attorney General. But you're an attorney, you're running for Attorney General, so it kind of seems to make sense. We had an all-day candidate forum on Tuesday where we featured all of the contested primary races. Two of them were for sheriff, both of them on the Republican side, by the way, in Berkeley County and Jefferson County and Morgan County, for that matter. So we had all three of those sheriff races featured at some point during the day. There are candidates who are running and saying, as a part of their message, Sam, that they want to be what they call a constitutional sheriff. And what they define that as is that if they see a law or something being broken, regulation or whatever it might be in their county, that they deem to be unconstitutional, whether it is a law passed by the legislature and signed by the governor or not, if they deem it to be unconstitutional, they will not enforce it. Do you have any thoughts on that, or have you heard of sheriffs running with that kind of message?
I have been in Berkeley County listening to sheriff's candidates, and I have heard some discussion about this frame of review that candidates are voicing. Look, a sheriff is a constitutional officer under our Constitution. Article 9, Section 3, the sheriff is set forth as an officer under our Constitution. There's no doubt that the office of the sheriff, arises and is articulated by our Constitution, and it's a critical office, and they have critical discretion and responsibility. From the Attorney General's standpoint, the relationship with the sheriffs is not one of really a primary law enforcement, but rather one of sort of counsel. The state attorney general serves as counsel to the state agencies, and when it comes to the sheriffs, I have been in a lot of dialogue with sheriffs about how the attorney general can provide better legal counsel in managing the conservatorship program. The sheriffs have responsibility for taking care of wards of the state, people who don't have other caretakers and need their end-of-life care, and those sorts of situations can get very sticky, and our Attorney General has really let down our sheriffs. It's basically an unfunded mandate that our sheriffs are stuck with. They don't, most of our sheriffs want to enforce those laws because they understand that there are sick and sensitive people in their communities who need that conservatorship. What the sheriffs really have asked for, and my understanding, is legal guidance from the Attorney General. I'd absolutely give that guidance to sheriffs, and they do have some discretion. But I think by and large, what the sheriffs have asked for from the Attorney General is legal guidance and counsel when they need it. Conservatorship's a good example. Transporting people for mental hygiene is a big challenge that I know that our sheriffs face. It's also essentially an unfunded mandate, and the Attorney General needs to do better at supporting sheriffs and helping them to fulfill those important functions that really arise from the constitutional position of our sheriffs.
Are you saying they're not getting that guidance from the current Attorney General?
They've told me they're not getting the guidance from the Attorney General. I've been endorsed by Sheriff Rutherford, the Sheriff of Kanawha County, and I'm in touch with a lot of sheriffs as I travel around the state. And yes, unfortunately, I think that our Attorney General has left our sheriffs in the lurch, and we've got to change that. The sheriffs need that support. It is an important constitutional office, and there needs to be more dialogue between the sheriffs and the Attorney General to delineate these functions and what they should be in any particular instance. I don't want to deal in hypotheticals and, prognosticate about every issue out there under the sun, but I absolutely believe that they are important constitutional officers, and we need that dialogue. We need the sheriffs to receive the support and the guidance that they need from the Attorney General, for sure.
All right, Sam, any final messages before we end our segment?
Rob and Dave, I hope I can talk to you again. I've really enjoyed being up. I know we talked about Armstrong. We talked about a lot of the economic issues that we've dealt with in our state over the last year. And the attorney, especially as we reopen the economy, the Attorney General has to be there protecting the safety of the workers, whether it's in the poultry plants down in Moorfield or the hardwood flooring plants, looking out for fair wages and benefits. I mean, this office is more important than ever right now as we're coming through the crisis. I hope people will consider voting for me, Sam Brown Petsonk, in the Democratic primary. I've got exactly the experience on health and safety and, these critical constitutional issues. That's what I've done in my law practice. That's what I did, advising Senator Byrd when I worked for U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd on labor and energy issues. That's what we need in this office. So I hope we'll have the chance to talk again, and I sincerely thank you for having me on and for providing this important public service to through your show, guys. I really appreciate that.
Have a great weekend, Sam. Thank you for the nice words, and best of luck to you in your primary, sir.
You all have a good one, too. Take care.